It doesn't take magic to be financial savvy, but there is a certain art form that comes along with it. It is most commonly a mix of planning, common sense, credit score utilization, commitment to the low cost living or living within your means, and people who can actively and financially have a budget makes a big difference when it comes to the future management. In today's video, we're going to be looking at 6 signs that you are more financially savvy than the average American. Starting with our first one, you are seeking out higher APYs and the best interest rate for that savings account, for those retirement accounts. Looking at the investment strategy, it doesn't take a lot of effort to find banks that are often willing to pay you a lot more money. When you have that emergency fund, you can earn 3%, 4%, 4.5%, very high APY, which does make a big difference when you start thinking bigger picture, when you start thinking long term. Let's say, for instance, you have $30,000 in that emergency fund. You're parking it at your traditional bank that is earning a 0.01, almost nothing. You are literally getting pennies on the emergency fund that you have, where if you put it into a high yield savings account, it's going to make a big difference in having the ability to build that emergency fund into more money. Now, the second one, you take time to plan and budget. As a financial counselor, this is the big education piece that people are missing. They don't want to spend the time, they don't want to spend the money, they don't want to spend the effort. And guys, it does take a little bit of time, but you can do it completely for free. When it comes to the more that you plan, the more that you budget for things, you know that is a trait when it comes to financial savvy, when it comes to financial literacy, that we focus on in a really big way. You're going to be looking at long-term goals, you're going to be looking at short-term goals, everything from leisure activities, things that you love to do, and setting a realistic budget. So to break this down a little bit further, list all your living expenses, super easy to do. List all of those wants or those flexible expenses with loan payments, everything like that. Look at your after-tax income. So what are you actually bringing home is a big part. If you use your gross income, chances are it's going to be much higher. Your budget's going to be thrown off. You want to bring home the actual dollar amount that you are bringing home. Setting a financial goal, making sure, again, you have those short-term and those long-term. Record and track your expenses over a 30-day window, then adjust and review. It is really that easy, and you'll quickly realize when it comes to planning and budgeting that a majority of the expenses that you have are fixed expenses. When you think of your mortgage payment, when you think of your loan payments, your car payment, most of those are pretty set expenses. When you look at the amount that you bring home, for a lot of people, pretty set expense. If you're hourly, if you're working 40 hours, it is going to be pretty set with a regular paycheck that you're getting. Expenses pretty regularly spent. It is the ones that are the adjustable ones that you have to be careful for. Third one, seeking financial advice from the right people. Nobody is born financial savvy, including my parents, but you can figure it out. You can go through and you need to learn and aim to improve your financial education. This means seeking advice like from people like me, experts that you might lack in a certain field. Important to have the financial advisors if you are utilizing them, because if you're not looking at your investment strategy, if you're not looking at that 401k, chances are your money might not be invested like it needs to be. Now, to do this and accomplish this, a lot of companies where your 401k is provided offer a lot of free services, including credit unions do the exact same. They have a lot of products and services that are absolutely free that can help you manage your money a lot better. Now, when it comes to money management, steering clear of unnecessary debt, this is the huge one. They don't bury themselves in a mountain of debt, because when we start thinking of credit card payments, when you start thinking about interest rates within those cards themselves, it is incredibly expensive. Every single dollar that you're paying in interest is a dollar you cannot use anywhere else. When you start getting those credit card balances higher, your credit score will start to suffer. And a lot of payments, you're essentially paying for stuff that you had in the past. You're not paying for things in the future. You're not future focused. You're not thinking about, the 3, 5, 10-year plan that you're looking at. It is a really vicious cycle. And I see a ton of people that are really stuck in here, making the minimum payments on credit cards. And of course, to try to help for this or try to free up some of that cash flow, you can look at debt consolidation loans. You can look at 0% balance transfer APRs. You can look at a lot of different things to try to get out of debt at a much lower rate. The trick is, and really the big caveat to this, is you cannot rack up new debt. If you're doing a debt consolidation loan, and let's say you're debt consolidating $20,000, all of a sudden in the next 3 to 5 years, you still have that debt consolidation loan because you took it out for 5 years. Now you're adding more money because you've racked up all of those credit cards by living outside of your means for an extended amount of time. I don't want the cycle to continue where you're paying interest on everything that you have. Now, finding other income streams. This is what we do here on YouTube. If you like the content, absolutely subscribe down to the channel. Give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. When you start thinking of income streams, if you're working a 9 to 5, spending and budgeting wisely, if anything should happen to that 9 to 5, unfortunately, your financial world is going to be turned upside down in an instant, which is the reason why looking for money that you can earn beyond that 9 to 5 paycheck can come in a lot of different forms. When we start looking at investment accounts, when you look at stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, part-time jobs like YouTube, looking at a way to create some sort of side hustle can give you an extra set of wealth. Not only if you're looking to repay debt, and I advise a lot of people to do this, where if your salary, you're working your regular 9 to 5, you're not bringing home enough money to cover all the bills, you got to get more income. If you don't have the ability, and it really leaves you with one of two options. Number one, increasing that income, bringing home more money on a weekly or a monthly basis, or the other sided, lower your expenses, lower your liabilities, which give you that third bucket, which is the ability to repay debt, to invest. Anything else you have to do with that, that is your only levers that you can really work with to make a big difference. Now, for me personally, this is a huge one, not wasting money on impulse buys, which I do not do at all, or luxuries. Anything that I plan to purchase, I don't want it to put a really big dent in my monthly budget. If there is something that I want to purchase that is a much higher cost, I work it into the budget. If I have an extra $100 that I can put out every 2 weeks, saving it till I get X amount of dollars to go ahead and buy whatever I'm looking for, it is huge. When we look at impulse shoppers, when they're going to grocery stores, impulse shoppers spend roughly $2,200 a year on just stuff at checkout, which is kind of crazy. So making sure you're not maxing out the credit cards for the purchases, sticking to your goals, and making sure that you want to get that financial foothold ahead of really most consumers. When we start looking at these, there are a few things with cash flow that we can talk about. Not leaning into retail therapy, not going in and shopping. Deal seeking is great, but don't overbuy just because it's a good value. Don't miss out, and you're not missing out on items that you really don't need. And people buy it because the price is cheap, even if they don't need it. A lot of people stockpile when it comes to hoarding, buying things once you have a budget, once you know exactly where the money is going. And the final take on this, it really being financial savvy is a day-to-day. It is a mindset change. It is a behavior change. It comes from hard work, the thirst of knowledge, making sure that you are staying up on financial education and literacy, making very good decisions with money. Me personally, I've had no spend weeks where I will not spend a single dollar, having everything planned, getting the gas tank filled up, knowing what I'm going to have for lunches. No spend days, no spend weeks really do make a difference. And also knowing exactly what you're planning to buy in the future is a huge, huge way to really get this done and get this under control when it comes to being financial savvy. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.